Blew Eval yesterday, my funded futures Eval, and I wish I had a great excuse and a reason why it happened, and I don't. And it got me thinking. I spent most of the day not stewing on it, but analyzing what happened and trying to figure out the cause, right? The root cause, and there are many. One of which is that finances are difficult right now, and that's just the way it is. Things are tough. My wife and I built a business uh, during the pandemic, and it grew at a rate that was at the time kind of like unbelievable. Seemed too good to be true, and we did not have the experience or the right mentorship to recognize that we were extremely over leveraged, overextended, and very vulnerable to any kind of economic disturbance, which obviously we all know occurred, right? So that ripples through time, and we still deal with that day to day. And we're just kind of going through a period right now where finances are challenging. We live paycheck to paycheck at the moment, and it's tough. So anyway, I don't mean to like, woe is me. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm not looking for sympathy. It is a situation that we're responsible for, and we manage it, and we are actively working to resolve it, and that's okay. All I'm saying is that there are certain days where that heaviness creeps in and affects my trading and affects my my mental state when trading. I think that was a big part of what happened yesterday. I was moving money around just to make sure all the bills were going to get paid when they need to be paid, and that's a little bit of a stressful activity. I'm accustomed to, or had been accustomed to, just having enough money in the account all the time, not having to worry about it. We had made it to a point at one time where cash flow was what it was, and we just knew that there was enough. So going back and having to manage it day to day is stressful. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that, right? It's a difficult thing, and it makes trading that much more difficult when you're counting your pennies to make ends meet, and then you're risking a couple hundred on a day trade, even though it's an evaluation. So anyway, that's not what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about was, yeah, well, actually, the other piece that I am realizing about myself. I've known this about myself, and it's something that I am always trying to improve upon. Is that I'm I'm a hammer, and everything looks like nails to me. That's my nature. That's how I grew up. That's the kind of work ethic I have, and it served me well in my younger years as a skilled laborer, construction worker, project manager. It's taken me to a lot of really cool places in the world and allowed me to do a lot of really cool things. But when it comes to day trading, it is not an asset. It is, in fact, a liability. And I recognize that. I've recognized it from day one. And it's something that I work on every day. Yesterday just got the better of me. I had a trade on, I had a bias. An entry presented itself that looked A plus, and it wasn't. And instead of just accepting that and taking the loss that I had planned for, I talked myself into trusting the bias rather than the price action. and I just held it until the bitter end. What are you going to do? I wish I could say that'll never happen again, but it might. But I'm going to move forward, charge on. So anyway, I bounced back today. I got back in the saddle, restarted an eval, and took a trade today. I've decided that I'm going to switch my strategy up a little bit. I know a lot of people probably get nervous when they hear that, strategy hopping and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, maybe. Maybe I am strategy hopping, but here's the deal. I'm just looking for the thing that's going to work. And I'm not giving any given strategy just a week to prove itself out. I've given the break and retest strategy 9 months. I'm really comfortable with it. I'm really confident with it. I think that it doesn't fully suit my personality, my lifestyle, and the amount of time that I have available to sit at the charts. So I'm going to take all of that really valuable information that I've learned over the last 9 months. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to utilize it, but I'm going to implement more of a trend line strategy as well. Been noticing in my own trading that trend lines play a very important role in my trades, regardless whether I'm looking at them for entry criteria or not. And I took a trade today using trend lines to trigger my entry and manage my trade, while still keeping in mind liquidity levels and support and resistance and all the other things that I've used in the past. And the trade went incredibly well. It was one of the cleanest trades I've ever taken. I'm not going to sit here and say that's it. I figured it out, and the rest is history. It is. I am going to be profitable, and it's right around the corner. Um, I'm not saying that this trade is the first trade of that profitable run, but I am saying that it was the easiest trade I have taken yet in my short but voluminous trading career. So let me show you what I did. Okay, so yesterday I was trading MES, and I was watching price just creep along this trend line, this 4-hour trend line, into all-time highs. And I was thinking, okay, we rejected highs yesterday or the day before. Maybe today we're going to break it. So when market opened, I saw price just break out a little bit. It retested the previous day's high with this really strong candle here, and I took an entry and thought to myself, we're gonna see new highs, quick scalp. It didn't play, right? It reversed on me. But because we consolidated along this daily or this previous day high, I just couldn't let that go, for whatever reason. Don't ask me why. I was being really stubborn about it. I also had another trend line drawn here that was more of a 15-minute trend, right? So this is what I noticed when the trade failed. I held it until I met my threshold, but what I noticed was price broke this 15-minute trend line and then just dumped all day long. And then it broke this 4-hour trend line and continued dumping all the way down until it hit the previous day low. It dumped even further. And then what did it do? It came up, broke this now 1-hour trend line, broke back above, consolidated, and started climbing. Until today, where we had a massive move. So this morning, I decided, you know what? I'm going to take a look at this trend line business and see if there's anything to it. So what I noticed last night is that on the 1 hour chart, we had this trend line forming. It was a 3-touch trend, and I had this wedge forming here marked by this green line. So I said, okay, I got 2 trend lines here. I'm going to try something. Marked that out on the 1 hour, came down to the 15, saw that it looked even stronger on the 15-minute, and went to the 5-minute. And at market open, you see price broke above the upper trend line, right? So I entered here. It came back all the way down to kind of the low of range. I had a stop loss just below this level. Never broke this range. And then just has been grinding up all day long. That's MES. Sorry. I took the trade on MNQ, but the chart was similar, right? It was the same thing. Charts looked almost identical. And this one played out even better. We broke the line. I took an entry here. Stop loss below this level. We continued, retested the 5-minute high. I added. Then we continued, retested the 15-minute high. And it just climbed all day long after breaking this trend line. I drew this trend here to trail my stop. Once the trade moved even higher at a more rapid rate, I drew a new line to trail my stop, and that's what I did. I trailed my stop all the way up this trend line here, taking scales along the way up until we hit all-time highs. And we had a reaction off all-time highs that, to me, looked like it's gonna lose momentum here. We also broke structure, and so I closed the trade. When we rejected off, this was that old 4-hour trend line from the other day. When we had a reaction off all-time highs and rejected off this trend line, broke structure, I closed my trailer. And I sat in this trade for a couple hours, but I didn't sit here and just watch it. I set some limit orders, trailed my stop along the way. I went and did other things. It's the easiest trade I've ever taken. I don't know. I'm not saying anything definitively other than I'm going to implement this into my day-to-day, and I'm going to see if it helps me improve and break out of this boom and bust cycle. I need simplicity. I need to keep trimming down things. There's this saying that goes around that like beginner traders do really well in the markets, and they do worse and worse the more they learn and the more knowledge they accumulate. And I think that I might be an example of that. When I came into it with just blind luck, knowing nothing, I actually did very well. There were times where I've made tens of thousands of dollars in the stock market just messing around before I was even pursuing becoming a trader. It was pure luck. And now that I'm really trying to learn how to do this and absorbing so much knowledge, it's become a lot more challenging. And so I think now the name of the game is to kind of dial things back and really strip it down to the basics and the fundamentals and just stick to something incredibly rudimentary. So I'm going to give that a shot. Still looking to switch over to being a profitable trader by the end of the year. I've got a little more than 2.5 months to do it. And I don't need to make that much money to actually hit that goal. A couple $1,000s gets me there. So